You're listening to My Top 8, a relationship podcast about friendship. I'm your host, Maggie May Fish. Remember, the show does not condone ranking your friends in a list of 8 people. And now, let's talk friendship.
Oh, some friends go and some friends less. Some come talk on your podcast. If they make you laugh and they treat you great, then you put them on your top 8.
Is this the start of the podcast where we just stare at each other?
Yeah, I was going to say, I've changed the theme of this podcast to now we just stare at each other
until one of us backs down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be me, Abe.
It's not going to be me.
Oh, great.
I'm inscrutable.
Hi, guys. Welcome to My Top 8. Welcome, Abe.
Hi, I'm Abe Epperson.
Yeah, you are.
Uh-huh.
You're great. You're funny.
Thank you.
You're a great, I say filmmaker, but, you know.
Yeah, I'd say filmmaker.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good or good.
That's my, you dress for the job you want.
Right.
So I dress like a filmmaker, which means like hats. And baggy clothes.
Yes.
And not giving a fuck
right.
because I'm like an artist.
Right.
And everyone should tell me that I'm
you,
good and
yes.
nice. And, so I'm a filmmaker.
I also noticed that you're sitting down and not getting up. Which I most recently saw George Lucas behind the scene footage of him shooting The Phantom Menace, which also seems to be his directing style.
Yeah.
Of just sitting and not moving.
Yeah.
Moving as little as possible.
Please, I don't want to move. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, have you seen Empire of Dreams?
No.
It's the behind the scenes for the making of the prequels.
No.
And it like, that's where it's like poetry, it rhymes comes from. And that's also, it's like me and Cody's favorite thing, speaking of friends.
Speaking of friends. Hi, Cody.
Yeah, hi, Cody. It's like, you can see how bad he is at making movies. Because at one point he calls them, the race, the Gungans. And then he calls them later the Gungans. Like, he can't even get it straight.
Listen, it doesn't matter.
And then his, AD's there, and you're like, so do you like it if you call action, or should I call action? Like, how do you want to do that? Yeah. Like, it's all this stuff, and he's like, yeah, cater to me.
I'll sometimes forget to call action, and then can you wipe my butt, please?
Yeah. All right, everyone, let's make a Star War.
Oh, depressing. Anyways, friends.
Yeah, friends.
Yeah.
Weird tangent, but all right.
So I guess I always pose this question to my my guests, just to just start the conversation.
Yeah.
Who would be in your top 8, Abe?
I thought about this. I have. We were just talking about this right before the stream, which is like you need a certain amount of time before it's like there's tiers of like how close you are. And I'd say that I have like 3 or 4 like very close friends.
Oh, like top tier. Golden.
Yeah, like mwah. And then I have a bunch of friends that I wouldn't, usually they say like friends and acquaintances.
Right.
Not even acquaintances, like people who are good people who I like hang out with every now and then and are still very much so my friends.
Right.
But like, if we don't see each other for, a few weeks, it's whatever.
Right.
And
yeah.
we're all fine with it. It's not like I'm going to be, I
as far
say
as you
this,
know.
Yeah, as far as I know, like,
they're writing in their diaries,
yeah, someone who I'm talking about, like, is like, I heard what you said on my top 8. I thought we were closer. So my realest closest friends, I'd have to give it to, obviously, my platonic love partner, Michael Swaim.
Yeah.
He's the longest standing friend I've ever had.
Really?
Our brains work the same way. And he says it too. Like we for some reason, 80% of the time, we're thinking exactly the same thing. It's unreal. To the point of making the same jokes. I think it's just because it's like osmosis of hanging out with friends.
Right.
Especially comedians who are like always on. So you know what the joke is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you know the joke that they're going to make, but you don't have the division line between like the joke that like I thought of this joke versus like this is a joke that Mike would make. There is no real separation.
Yeah.
And we've known each other since we've probably known each other for maybe 11 years, 10 years definitely.
Wow.
And we knew each other for like the first 3 years through a satire publication like The Onion.
Right.
But it was the on-campus UCSD one. I was editor-in-chief.
Whoa,
and he was a content editor for me. And he was also doing theater at the time, and I was doing visual arts. So we were just kind of like boats passing in the night, but like still like every few weekends we would hang out at what we call production, which they cram a bunch of smelly college students into a, very small cave.
I remember.
And they feed you burritos and, Red Bulls.
I see how you bonded.
Yeah. And then you make jokes. And so we did that, and then it became pretty obvious, like once we're almost graduated, that I was like, and it was the funniest conversation. I still have vague remembrances of now, and it's probably now completely different than it actually was.
It's now
that's
mythos.
Because that's how memory works. But it was just like, you funny, camera, and he was like, yes. And then we decided to start Those Aren't Muskets, which was like a 2.5-year venture. Really, it was like one big year of making like 30 sketches.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we really went crazy, and then I got into USC film school for MFA, and he went to Cracked, and then I got out of that and went to Cracked, and now we're here making Small Beans, which this is the network. So it all comes full circle.
It's like a snake eating itself, but it's a friendship snake. and everyone's
it's a
happy.
friendship Ouroboros. So that's kind of the story behind it, and why. And so we like bonded through comedy and stuff. But what makes him such a good friend is that like we do this thing all the time. Where have you ever seen The Wire?
Bits and pieces.
Okay, there's this
sadly.
scene with Stringer Bell and Avon Barksdale, and Stringer Bell's Idris Elba.
Yeah.
Where they're now the context matters because they're trying to gonna kill each other, but like it like comes from this history of them like coming up together like from the streets and like having each other's back, but now they think one of them they both think each other are stepping to each other, which they're actually right, but it was like a miscommunication that started it all, which makes it tragic. But they have this thing where you've never seen them say it before, where they just stick their hand out, give a pound, and they go, us bro, us. And it means like it's the last time that they say it, and they don't mean it.
Yeah.
But it's clear based off the performances that they do this all the time.
Right.
Like this is when they're like, it's just you and me kind of thing. And me and Swam do that all the time. And then joke about the fact that he's like, so you're not going to murder me, right? We do that. We also, he tweeted this actually recently. It was weird because I didn't even think twice about it.
Yeah.
We definitely, and I've never done this with a friend, but it just seemed like supernatural. We're actually two straight men who say like, I love you. Yeah.
That was my next thing I was going to ask. Because
every now and then it happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think so far I've had females on the show, and our experience of friendship is it's love, like it's sleeping in the same bed, it's like
none of that
cuddling, yeah. So I guess in what ways do you show friendship? In what ways do you like receive friendship?
I knew this was gonna come up because I was like, I wonder if I'm the first like dude.
Yeah. You're the first dude.
I'm the first dude, man.
Tell me about the dude experience.
So like I would say that Swaim and I's friendship is a very atypical. Dudes are a lot more like everything you can we're open books kind of thing about friends. Like it's usually just like, come hang out, what do you want to do, Smash Brothers? Yes. And then
popcorn, yes.
And
hot mom
here's
there,
the thing
yes.
that becomes unique I think with men is that I don't know, maybe not unique, but just something that I've always noticed with like having friends who are women or having friends who are men is like if there is a big long absentee time like where it's just like you moved off, you fucked off to Oklahoma for 4 years to join the Air Force or something, and you come back, and then you're all of a sudden here again. It is not like, we need to talk about like what happened.
Right.
It is literally walk in, so what do you want to do, play Smash Brothers? And it's like, it's like you don't skip a step. And I've noticed this throughout my life is that like, because I had a very nomadic lifestyle, not because my family moved around, but because of just random circumstance. Like I left all my friends in the middle of like elementary school because I like started to go, like, I didn't actually believe in a church, but like one of my friends was like
Right.
a Mormon. So I was like, I guess all my friends are
That's
Mormon
a
now.
thing. Yeah, yeah. All
So
my
that's
friends-
weird because
Yeah.
I liked it because it was like Boy Scouts. It was like the Boy Scout troop.
Right.
And then in middle school, I had friends for like 2-3 years. But then I left to a college prep. So I went to a private high school.
Yeah.
And then halfway through private high school, my friendship circle imploded.
Oh, no.
Because one of them like cheated on me with my girlfriend.
Oh.
So yeah, so
no,
like
that's terrible high school.
yeah, it's terrible high
Oh.
school, and so I of course was like live journal, and also I had to be like so drastic. I remember the first day I just like walked right past them.
Yeah.
And they were just like, they were gonna like apologize or whatever, and I just walked into the first room, and I was like, "You guys are all my friends now."
Whoa.
Yeah, it was pretty insane. And then I went to college. I don't keep up with a lot of people from college, even though I did drugs with these people.
Right.
And there's
That's
nothing.
friendship, right? No.
Yeah, it is. If you take psychedelics with someone, you're like,
You're bonded.
You and me, man.
Yeah. We both saw that vampire.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that vampire was our vampire. So, and then I went to, so I haven't had, other than
Yeah.
Michael, a friend for longer than
Not a lot of glue friends.
4 years, and then I'd say that that's increasingly becoming less true. Adam Ganzer, every 2 weeks we have a Discord call that it usually lasts like 2 hours, where we just talk about like his love life or just like what's going on. And so that's like fairly atypical for, I'd say, dude friends.
Yeah.
But I guess it's not becoming atypical anymore because I'm,
Right.
as I grow up, I'm just like, yeah, sometimes you just, you gotta
just love a
vent
friend.
it out.
Yeah.
But I'd say Adam and I, because we had the same job, I was one of the people who helped him get him the job.
Right. You look the same. People mix up your names
all
the
the time. So
Yes.
so it just made sense that we would like commiserate with each other.
Right.
And because we had this tree at Cracked where we'd go outside where we'd be like, fuck off, fuck the rest of this office. Let's just go talk at that tree for an hour, and and he'd just be like, these motherfuckers, or something like that. It wouldn't always be like that. It would just be like, if we ever had like to talk through something, because sometimes it's lonely directing. So it was kind of cool.
I bet. Yeah. I always just look to you guys as like, oh, you know what you're doing, which means that you probably didn't have like a ton of.
Well, it's not usually like you're in your element when you're like working with the actor and you're just trying to find like, if when I would direct you, you just like, you just be funny. That's the
Right.
magic of Maggie or the magic of Michael Slam or like whatever performer. You just give them a space to let their best version of it come out. At least for comedy, it's like first do no harm kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when you have a the place that shall not be named is what Dan and I were calling it on another podcast. It was just the like all this, so much time would be like, do this, and out of no fault of theirs, like the brass wasn't trying to fuck us over. It was just like
Right.
the well was running dry.
Yeah.
And so we were just like, okay, so they want us to do this and they want us to do this. And like tension is really high within production. And now they're asking me why I didn't have this part. And I was like, I don't have the money for that.
Right.
So it's like, it's that kind of loneliness where you just
Yeah.
feel this, like the walls just, coming in on you.
Right.
And so sometimes it's good to have, a person like that.
Well, it's also like in high school, a lot of people become friends because there's an awful teacher that they, love to hate.
Yeah.
And then they're friends forever because of mutual hatred. Not that it was hatred, but
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I go and then in this top tier, and he'd probably be surprised. He'd probably go like, "Oh," but it's because he and I have like, we used to work with each other, but we don't work with each other anymore.
Right.
And he got out of Cracked earlier than most, so he never was there for like that weird part. And then also like every time we hang out, we don't even talk about shit. He's the Smash Brothers friend,
Right.
and I'm gonna give that number 3 position to Brendan Carter. And it's just because every time he's just like, do you want to come? Like I'm just like, I don't know. I was just the other day. I was just like, I gotta get out of my house. And he was like, do you want to come over to my house?
Oh my
And I was
God, a
like, I'll
different
come over to
house?
your house. He's like, you can invite yourself over anytime. I was like, but what will we do? He's like, it's probably gonna involve smoking weed. Like, so it's just he's just that, like, he's also an amazing human being who you could talk his ear off and he's going to be super supportive. But for where I was in my life, he was always there just to be like, you know what, man, I just need to fucking veg out. And then, of course, there's a bunch of other friends that I put in this list,
Right.
like Cody Johnston, Katie Stoll,
Right.
Dan O'Brien, all these people who are great. So I guess hopefully that's enough for my top 8.
Oh, that is definitely
All right.
enough. We always say it's not really actually about the
number. Yeah, that's
or...
just the MySpace reference.
Right. Yeah. Just the MySpace reference. We always
Keeping it topical over here.
Oh, hey!
Yeah.
Current and up to date.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I was going to bring up an article on friendship.
Oh, yeah?
Just because I mean, I think you said this earlier, like, psychology really fascinates me, and especially with friendship, because again, it's like this whole nebulous thing that means so much. But one of the things I wanted to talk about is an article that I read on a plane.
Okay.
I think it was Southwest. Found the
So,
article.
found it finally.
Found it. All right, so here we go. It takes 50 hours to make a friend. And again, this is from Southwest. I didn't write down who wrote this, so lo siento, but I'll find it. According to a study conducted by University of Kansas professor Jeffrey Hall and published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, you can forget about fast friends.
So you know, fast friend.
Yep. The path to becoming BFF requires time and not just any hours will do. This is in quotes. For working adults, more time at work was associated with less closeness and friendship. I was going to pause to say duh, but I think that's...
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Instead, time spent in leisure, at home, or at play really mattered. In all, you'll have to dedicate 50 hours to graduate from acquaintance to close friend. 90 hours to jump from 90 hours to jump to friend, and 200 plus hours to claim close friend status.
And 10,000 hours in order to become
an expert friend.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say just you could take over their body,
Oh.
like a body snatch.
Oh,
And you could
that's
become
what
them.
you were gonna say.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
Just become them. I'm
Just
like,
become them.
you come home and just, Maggie, what are you doing? And it's just me in a wig. I'm like, nothing. Everything seems in order here.
Anyways, you want to play Smash?
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Yep. Well, that's interesting. So you said 200 hours to be like
200
like
hours.
best friend.
Mm-hmm. Which, when I hear it, it sounds and makes a lot of sense. But I also think it ties
Seems
in.
short to me.
200? Mm-hmm. Yay! I actually have no concept of how long that would be. 200 just sounds like a large number to me.
Well, it's like 2.5 like weeks at work for a normal work.
Okay.
40-hour,
For a best friend?
40-hour week.
Yeah.
I guess it would be 4.5 or 4 or
4.5
5.
weeks, like a month. A month at work, you could make a
month
best
of work
friend.
of just like focusing on that person. So I would
Right.
say like you log that in. You can log that in if you're just like if you like someone,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys just hit it off kind of thing. You
can log that time
You could log
pretty
that time
quickly.
in like a month, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like probably won't. Because it's usually a little awkward when it's just like, hi, we're friends. And we're friends. Like 4 hours a day, every day.
Yeah, let's put in our 200 hours, and then in a month from now, we'll be best friends.
Yeah, the other thing I want to wonder
Mm-hmm.
about that is because what's a little bit of BS on your psychology today,
Yeah.
Southwest.
Yeah.
Just because I wonder, because not all interactions are equal. Because
That's true. It can
if
be
we're
very
sitting at
surface
each
level.
other, like staring each other in each other's eyes,
Yeah.
that's a little different. And like talking about like this is what my mom did to me once,
Right.
versus like just playing Smash Brothers and you're like,
Yeah.
like there's two different. Like I would say that those probably have value, but
Right.
like the quote of it,
Yeah, the
there's not like a
quality of
constancy
time.
to time. It's quality time.
Yeah. That also, it ties into another concept that I recently just started reading about because I was fascinated, is parasocial relationships, where it's relationships with people online that you don't actually really know that well. But because your brain like sees their photo and like they're in your feed, it's like, oh, they're my friend. When in reality, you actually don't know them very well.
Right.
Which is a trap that I fall into all the time.
Dude, I have a great story about this.
Oh,
Because I just, well, it's
please.
not a great story. It's just
Yeah.
an interesting thing that I'm sure a lot of people in the audience can relate to, which is that, so dating when you were like in high school, it started and sometimes it ended on AIM, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I have basically like, bully is a strong word, but the first guy that I liked, I was like, we need to date. And he was like, what if we were just friends? And I was like, no, we should definitely date.
But so in high school, that's how it works, especially for me because I went to an all guys school. So that's like how
yeah.
I related. And so there's always this big anticipation because like you had met, you know, a woman in like some situation, but then you
Right.
start talking each other up. So you've logged in 2 hours at a party and like 80 hours on AIM. And that's like, and then you forget, like, do they forget how I looked or like,
Yes.
because 2 hours is
They
just
did.
so like, it's just like so fast. It was just like, oh yeah, this was a lot of fun. And then
Right.
here's the realization that I had is that like when I hit college, I had no clue that it's like far different skills because like my AIM game was like fucking on point. Like I was so good.
Yeah.
But then when I got into the situation where I had to be like, there's a bunch of people around and like they're at a drum circle and you want to talk
Right.
to a girl and it's just like, do you have an AIM? You know, it's what do I do with everything? So yeah, I had that realization, and so what's funny is that I recently started talking to people online because of like Discord and stuff,
Right.
and it made it very clear to me. I was like, it's like getting back on a bike, you know, it's just like, as soon as I was like, I stopped doing any of that shit and I don't
Yeah.
really text and texting's a little abrasive, like the typing is what, but it's also all the little nuances of that when you're like in high school, like, has she seen it yet? Has she seen it yet? Or
Right.
it's like, how long is too long for me to wait to respond?
Yeah.
Like there's a whole subset of rules, right?
Naturally.
And they come from real life, but they're different because it's like its own like thing that was organic and it grew out of our generation, really.
Right.
And so we decided these random rules that
we all adhere to.
that we all adhered to.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you didn't, that's weird.
Yeah. Oh, you responded right away?
What?
Oh,
Wait, now she's throwing me for a
do
loop.
I tell them?
Yeah.
Not
Well,
to?
I would just assume that like then the thing that I think is happening must not be happening because then you just assume
unspoken
they're just like don't care. I'm breaking the rules because this is easier for me, and I'm like, but the reality is they could be like having crippling doubt, and they're like, I hope he likes
Anxiety.
me. And so who knows? The rules were made by children.
Yeah.
But now that I've done that again and I've gotten back into dating too, it's just like, it's really funny to me because I'm just like, oh, I forgot about that for a long time. Like I am that guy who like, because everyone's like that, like I referenced it just now. They talk about like once you learn how to ride a bike, you know, like
Right.
I am that guy that actually they needed in order to test that to be a true theory. Because like I stopped riding the bike, I stopped dating of any form, and
Right.
flirtation was not like a thing. I was just a guy for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just the guy for a while, and then I started like so now flirtation is back in my life, dating's back in my life, and like it's just really weird.
Yeah.
It's just like you forget how easy it is in terms of like the rules of the game, and you also
Right.
forget how silly it is.
That there
And
are
like
rules.
that you and that's kind of freeing because like I feel like I'm this like weird Zen master who's like walked in because like I took a break for 15 years and everyone's just like all these anxieties because I've been doing this and I just can't stop, and I'm like, it's cool, none of these rules matter, baby. and they're like, yeah, but they do, I've been following for 15 years. Guess what?
Guess what?
You
I don't know, man.
You don't have to do any of that shit.
That's interesting. I wanted to ask. So you are now dating in the dating pool, dating on apps.
Not on apps. I refuse apps.
Oh. Wow,
I got some
wow.
stories too. I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at like the first few dates. Like I'm pretty proud of myself.
I see. I like picture you as being a good partner.
What happens after? I'm like, oh no, like that was all I had. My opening volley of like 8 dates was like amazing, and then I'm just like, now I'm fuck. She has to deal with the fact that I'm not that thoroughly interesting.
But okay, so when you're kind of like feeling someone out, do you see it as like, oh, this could also be a potential like friendship, if not a like romantic partnership? Or is it usually just like, are we like good together? Yes or no?
I would say it's interesting. That's an interesting way of saying it. I would say it's the latter, but I wouldn't say it's just like, because what the audience didn't see is the way in which like what you like
hands
shrugged your
up.
hands like I saw what you meant, and I
Yeah.
think what you mean is it's just like let it play out.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that it's definitely closer to that. I have stopped thinking about things. In a way that but it's like it's very strange because I've never been that kind of person. But now the anxiety of it just got to me in a way that I was just like, I'm not gonna have any of that. I'm too old to have anxiety about this shit. So I just boot it right out, and it's become alarmingly easy. And what I guess like an example I can give is like, most of my superpowers come from the fact that I break down walls, and it's off-putting to a lot of people.
Oh, wow.
And that's the thing is that a lot of people go like, I don't want that.
Right.
And I'm
I'd
like,
rather keep walls up and
and
like
then
my thing.
So then I just, and the beauty about it is I have wasted no time. So I put on my monocle and top hat and I go like, good day to you, man. And then I walk out.
Collect 200 as you pass go.
Yeah, exactly. So when it comes down to it, I just stopped caring about it. And so far it seems to be good. I imagine that there is probably someone out there who would totally catch me off guard. You know?
Yeah.
Like that one scene in that Jennifer Connelly movie, Career Opportunities. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Like
Should
that.
I?
Like he's like, because he works at like Target, and he's like just he's the night shift guy, and he's just having a bunch of good times, like wearing bridal gowns and roller skating, and she like broke in. Like, and is just like looking at stuff and shoplifting, and they like see each other, and like he roller skates by her, and they give each other this look like of, oh my God, are we soulmates? And it's like an amazing little, it's like way better than the movie, just that one instance. But I'm sure, I bet someone would cause me to have my hat in hand, and the insecurity would return.
Yeah.
But
the insecurity would fastly return.
like I go on real outside of the box dates. The one that I've been telling people because I just think it's funny because it kind of wasn't a plan, it kind of just happened. So there's this woman I met in a shopping market.
Okay.
And
that's fun.
So the first thing that happened is that you know how sometimes you go shopping, when you go shopping, you like see someone in the shopping market like several times.
Yeah.
Like you go off and you're like, now I'm going to go look for eggs,
yeah.
and they go off and they're going to look for bread.
Right.
But then you see each other again at like the tissues aisles. So it happened way too many times, or enough of note that I just decided to go for it. And I was just like, and I was just like,
oh my God.
I was like, stop following me. And she was like, I thought you were doing that. And we're laughing. And then we went to, and then I went to the condiment aisle, and I was like getting like Plotchman's mustard, which is the best, best mustard, because it's got like a lot of vinegar in it. So it's like a vinegary.
That sounds great.
It's the best. So I was looking at that, comparing mustards, and she walks up and she just like grabs like some relish.
Oh.
And then I'm just like, I said, like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
She was like, I actually don't want relish. I just want to either give you my number or you to give me your number. And I was like, you got it. And so we did that. And then we went to, actually, it was kind of close to this.
Okay.
We went to the duck pond at Balboa.
Oh.
And so we fed ducks, which is, we had to cheese it. Like, because they were like, stop feeding the ducks. And I'm like, duck lives matter.
Yeah, duck lives matter. Also, this is my first date idea, so.
And then, but here's, so the second date was the following. I like called her up and I was like, do you like to bowl? And she was like, no, I don't like to bowl. And I was like, well, we're going to go bowling. And she was like, well, all right. I was like, don't worry, it's going to be fun. And so we go to the bowling rink and we do not buy shoes.
Wow.
So here's what's so she's already knows something up. And here's what you know
Yeah.
how and we went on a pretty empty night. I think it was like a Wednesday night or something like that,
Okay.
just because she has a weird schedule. And it was like, you know how when there's like it's like kind of empty, like there's like 4 lanes have groups of people, and there's like a
Yeah.
family. There was like it looked like a bachelorette party or something. Just
Bowling bachelorette.
I don't know. It
party.
was just a bunch
Wow.
of very drunk women.
That sounds about right.
A bunch of drunk dudes, and then like it looked like a 4-way, like a quadruple date or something
yeah.
like that.
Or they all just
They were
kind of bang
just
and,
yeah. In bowling alleys.
Yeah.
So you know how the layout of every bowling place is the same. You have the lanes, and then you have this like overflow seating.
Yes.
That's kind of near this like not like kind of a bar.
Yeah, but
So,
it's like,
but it's just like
kids are
if you're having a
considered
party,
too.
yeah, you can put your cake on that little bar area. So that's where we go to sit. And we start off, and we kind of skip the family because we're like, it's family. It's a little weird.
Let's leave them alone. They got enough drama, I'm sure.
But we immediately go to like the bachelorette party.
Yeah.
And here's what we do with the next like 2 hours of our lives is we spend about 40 minutes there at that particular lane. And at first they're like, who are these guys? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Just watching and waiting. Does someone know them? Like, I'm sure they had talked about that.
Right.
But we were waiting for when they got like strikes and stuff. Because when they did, we'd go, woo! Yeah! And then like we would hear that like one of them's name was Danielle. We're like, Danielle! And she was, so they were into it. Everyone was pretty into it. And then after 45 minutes or so, we moved to the next group. And by the time we got to the third group, everyone knew what we were doing. So like the group of bros that were there, and by this point it was like pretty late in the night. So as soon as we started walking over, they were like, yeah, and they were like, we're real excited about you. So it felt like I just want to create like movie interactions, you know, like interactions that you get in a movie.
That is so fun. And I would say, I think that is a great date because you can really test to see if that person can just like, hey, can you do this weird thing with me for like 2 hours and have fun?
Yeah. Because I agree. There's a lot of people, I've lost a lot of friends, not by like being anyone's particularly mean to them.
Right.
But it's just like, do you want to go do something crazy? And they're like, no, I'd rather just stay in my warm blanket, burrito blanket. Yeah. And I'm just like, all right, that's cool. I mean, there's a time for that, you know, but you've been in that burrito blanket for like a long time
now.
So I'm just gonna
Have fun.
do my thing. Is that cool? So so I'm getting a lot better at the whole dates, thinking of outside the box dates.
Yeah.
But yeah, so back in the dating world, none of them which I've worked with. I usually don't date people I've worked with.
Interesting. I am a terrible example of like, don't date where you work. I just I've dated so many people that I've worked with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes the heart wants what it wants.
Yeah.
And I do have romantic thoughts about like
Abe.
about myself.
Yeah.
Oh no. I have romantic thoughts about like I think that the perfect like the type of person who would be perfect for me would be an editor because I constantly want to be checked all the time.
Yeah.
Because I just like too far.
Yeah.
And they're like, yes,
Put
too
me in
far.
my
And here's
place.
why. I'm like,
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite interactions with humans. But I've never really dated people who I work with.
Yeah. Generally, I would say bad idea. Or not bad idea. I don't know.
I mean, the heart wants what it wants,
Yeah.
and people have made it work many, many times.
Right.
It's just I don't seek it. Like if like a woman is like producing for me or shoot DPing for me or on like the crew, or it's an actress and there's like interest there,
Right.
I will keep that shit out of the workplace.
Right.
But
And
if
most
something
often-
happens, it
yeah.
happens.
And I would say most often times, like, women can make the first move. Like, if they're into it, they will.
Yeah, that's a whole
reach
nother
out.
podcast.
Yeah,
But I want a lot more. I think I want a lot more like women who are a lot crazier than most men want. I guess like who are like I don't know, I'm out of control. And I'm like yes, chaos, burn it down. Let's lure the flies. This shit. That's what I'm looking for in a partner. Someone who would murder Piggy and steal the conch
Oh,
shell.
well, you heard it here, I guess.
No, yeah. But no, this is a relationship podcast.
Right.
Let's talk about friends. I have the same values on friends. Like, I like people who are a little off and crazy.
I think I do too. In a way, I think I don't know. I've always been friends with people who are, other people find hard to be friends with, which I recently realized was because I wasn't great at picking friends, and I would just like make a ton of excuses for them.
Yeah.
Be like, oh no, they're just like, you thought that they were being rude, but really, and then like years later, I'm like, oh man,
they're just rude.
Rude. They were just rude people.
What do you think about living with your friends?
I
mean, obviously.
I've had very positive experiences living with friends.
Yeah, me too.
I lived with my best guy friend in college, Ryan, and we had so much fun. He is a male friend that I have like a female feeling friendship with. Like, we love each other, and like in college we would like, stay up till 3 a.m. like talking about relationships and stuff. And that was great. And now I live with Bailey, and she's one of my best friends, and it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to live with Michael Swaim twice, in fact.
Oh.
Once in San Diego and once in Pasadena.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a moment where I realized that I was a bad friend.
Oh, let's talk about that.
It wasn't like any thing I particularly did, but
Right.
and I mean, he's gonna listen to this, so
Right. And I think that's great. We should all be better at admitting when we're bad friends, because we all are.
Yeah,
At some
it
point,
was.
no one's perfect friend.
I mean, I'm sure there was that one time that it was a bad friend,
Yeah.
and he's thinking about it. And it's probably not that, Mike.
Yeah.
No, it was more of a state of mind. I think I might have actually told him something about it. Is that he's had a lot of. He has a very interesting personality type. Without going too much into it, because I don't know what he wants people to know. But he seems pretty open with it, with like Tales from the Pit and stuff like that. But he sometimes can be very removed, or other times he's like, if you're right in front of him, he's like the number one guy in the room who's got your back. Other times he's just like wants to go upstairs and just like be alone and be on the computer and not hang out and stuff like that. And this was during a time when we had a squatter at our house, Noah Byrne, who just lived there for a year and like washed our dishes, and he's from South Carolina, and he just like kicked it. Yeah. And Swain would never really hang out with us as much as we like to hang out, which I understand, because he had work and stuff like that. But also, like, he can't always be on. So I'm not blaming it for anything.
Right.
But I realized that I started to get like resentful of it. Oh. Where I was just like, why he doesn't like hanging out with us? I thought we were going to be like friends. Instead, we're just roommates.
Right.
And maybe that was probably the smarter thing to do, was just to, not be as close friends, because, at that time. Right. And so I started to get resentful because I thought that that's what was happening. And it wasn't. It was just how Swam is. And I remember starting, when that resentment turns into other, like, there's kindling of other things, and it just spreads. And I remember thinking that anytime Swaim would get like vulnerable, I would like make him feel it a little bit more. And he probably didn't even know it was happening, because I'm like a master. I'm like Littlefinger with my schemes. But like I would like tell him, I would try to essentially change him. Yeah. Like try to make him like, well, you do this, and that's like strange, Right. Stuff like that. And then one day I woke up and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? There's this beautiful human being that exists, and you think you have the gall to tell him what's best? The guy knows what he's doing. He knows what he's all about. Just do the best you can with your life, and stop trying to change someone who's frankly a major positive force in your life. Right. And so that was a time where I auto-corrected before it got bad.
That's beautiful.
Well, thank you.
I commend you for your self-awareness.
I think it also helped to have someone who's there, who's like Noah,
right?
Who's like this Amblin Bob Dylan guy, who's like born in the wrong
meet Noah.
Yeah, and he was just like, I mean, why do you feel that way, man?
man. Dig into
Yeah.
that.
And
Don't
it's
run
just
away.
Like I wouldn't have looked inward if it wasn't for that.
Yeah.
So it was helpful. But yeah, I think that kind of stuff makes you stronger friends, even if it wasn't per se a conversation that he and I had.
Right.
It made me realize something about myself and like how you can single-handedly start a chain of events that cause you to be a not as good of a friend or a lesser
Right.
friend
Mm-hmm.
without the other person even being involved, just because you have
Right,
hiccups
because you're
of character.
in your own head, like, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a very close friend out here. One of my best friends. I feel like maybe like 2 or 3 times we've had big conversations about like, I feel like you're pushing me away when you do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a lot of it just always turns out to be like our preconceived notions about the way that we're acting towards each other.
Yeah. I've definitely, as I gotten older, because I used to think that like the I feel words and stuff like that, like the therapeutic stuff of that, I had never bought into that. I was like,
Oh, really?
yeah, I was really anti for a long time in my life, but now
Yeah.
I'm starting to see the value of it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like sometimes it's just you need to say it in a way that they're hearing you, or you're being heard in a way, you know?
Right.
Like, and
Yeah.
that's why you're relying on it, is not because it's particularly wise, but just because you can't fuck it up.
Right.
You know, if you just say, no, I'm not saying causality.
Right.
I'm not saying correlation. I'm
this
just
is
saying I
what
feel.
I'm feeling.
Yeah.
La, la, la.
But
Yeah.
I've never been a big feeling guy.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I've never been like, don't need to talk that through.
Yeah.
I'm always been like, actions speak louder than words. Like, people are like, yeah, but like let's say you done me wrong.
Yeah.
And like, you then come to me with all these nice, kind words about like, I'm so sorry about doing that and this, that. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's all
Cool.
nice. And yeah, that's cool. But you done me wrong.
You done me wrong.
And then I become Littlefinger again and I start scheming. And before you know it, you're dead.
No, I think that's incredible. I think that's very valuable, especially connecting it back to like parasocial relationships where
Right.
it's like people can really say anything and it's hard to really know who a person is until you like see them make a few decisions. Really, because it's like,
And when I just
Then I
recently
know.
had a thing with Adam where I realized I could have been a better friend because he had an interaction online where he's just like, this motherfucker over here. And I was just like,
Right.
well, I don't want to say that he's a motherfucker, but you know, I
Yeah.
got your back. He's like, if you had my back, you would have actually had my back. But you played the in-between game
Yeah.
and we're biding your time.
Yeah.
And that says something. I'm like, you got me there.
Adam is really good at. I think he's great at just like speaking his truth.
Yeah. No, he's very intuitive when it comes
Yeah.
down to it. Very perceptive person. And so those are like the 2 closest friends. And I knew you were gonna ask me about like times you wronged people.
Yeah.
Because I haven't really wronged anyone by like crazy actions. Like I
Right.
didn't like fuck anyone
Yeah,
over.
I think more common is the like accidental or like you said earlier, the Stringer Bell situation where it's a miscommunication that kind
Yeah.
of spirals into.
Because I don't
a
mean ill will.
thing.
They didn't mean any ill will, but it
Right.
just went a different way because we're not compatible for XYZ.
Right.
Is another case.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, also no one wants to admit that they're like, you done fucked up. There's
Right.
shit I've done that I'm not that proud of. and
Yeah.
I'm definitely not going to talk about it on a podcast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I mean, like, we all have those, like, you know, kind of like, because skeletons in the closet is a little too dark. Because it's not like I
Yeah.
killed somebody.
Right. Again, as far as anyone knows.
I didn't kill anybody. No, but it's like also there's just like that. You know, it's the typical thing. You ever wake up in the middle of the night and be like, that one fucking thing I did to that poor woman
Yeah. Oh, she'll never.
in college. I'm just such a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Because we all have those.
Yeah.
You know? So,
Yeah. I also like a thing that I realized, I think in like college was because I came from like a very small town. I was used to seeing the same like 20 people all the time. Like to me, friendship was like, oh, if you're a friend for life. And like that's
so
there's
weird.
no other option. Like you're friends and any like parting of ways is like a failure of some part.
weird.
Yeah, which is like totally not how you should go about viewing friendship.
Well, it's kind of putting the cart before the horse. It's like,
It's like a chariot.
It's like a burden now. Now it's like you must keep it together for the non-existent kids.
For the non-existent kids that we don't have. That was a huge like learning curve because I was like, oh, I am placing unfair expectations on everyone who just like decides to be casual
now
friends.
Were you told this, or did this just like naturally evolve out of just looking around and seeing that that's how mostly people were?
I think it was just natural. And also like I was bullied pretty heavily in middle school, but by the time that we were high schoolers, we all were kind of friends. So like to me, the message that I got, and I felt like so mature, I was like, oh, everyone can be friends if we just work hard enough at it. Which you're smiling and laughing because that is like now as an adult is an insane thing to think.
Yeah, especially in this time.
Yeah. Like, why did I ever think?
But I love that you were proud of yourself for that.
So proud.
You're just like, sometimes kindness is good.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay.
This is some deep shit.
This is some deep shit you figured out, Maggie. Yeah. And then
you write your song about it.
Oh,
you pick up a guitar and you learn to play guitar just for the song.
Yeah,
sometimes being good is good. Yeah.
Needless to say, I had terrible experiences that grew me up to the normal view of friendship.
Yeah. One of the things that was seminal in my development, which played in, like, it dipped into my nomadic aspect of friendship, where I just need to, like, every now and then I'd just be like, look around and I'm like, there's nothing wrong with this beautiful little house.
Yeah.
Burn it down. Like, so that's like what I would do.
Burn it down.
Yeah. I couldn't help myself. I would just implode. And it wouldn't even be a bad explosion. It'd just be like, you know what? Notice that Abe's just like not around anymore. I don't know what they talked about because I wasn't there. Maybe I did really did make people angry, but I don't think so because it never was like I was never close. I was just this kind of passenger in friendship.
You're describing like my nightmare as like a high schooler.
Oh, I fucking loved it. I dipped way into it.
Yeah.
I dipped way into it.
In a way, in some ways, I put that as healthier than like the attitude I had.
Yeah, it was only when I got into college where I was just like, all right, maybe I'm done with that part of life. And well, actually, it probably started midway through college because that's when I mentioned the bad thing that happened to me. That like, I don't care. No one actually cares anymore. It's all dimes in the fucking bucket of,
dimes in the bucket, water under the bridge.
My expensive dimes are much better than your filthy water. No, it's like, because you take this kid who's already just like the rest of us, who's just like listening to emo music and like got his live journal and like just waiting for something big to happen to him because life is boring for most of us. And then I start to suspect that like my girlfriend at the time is cheating on me. Whoa. And I'm like, I gotta figure this out. And like she started clearly, even though I knew it was her. Yeah. She started to what's the word when catfish me on AIM and stuff. Yeah, it got pretty. And so and I was just like, okay, she was trying to find out how much I knew, kind of stuff.
Right.
And then it all kind of came to pass on like my car like broke down and my friend had a nice car and was also the guy. And she was like, I'll just ride with him. And I was like, so pissed.
So many bells and whistles are going off in your body.
And I was like, okay, then we'll go in his car. And her sister was like, they can't fit. It's like a 2-seater. So you can, we'll just meet up at her place. And so I went with the sister. And the whole time I was just like so angry.
Cool.
And we were in a band together.
Whoa!
And so the band broke up immediately after. And the way that they did it, by the way, is one of the funniest fucking shit. They didn't even talk to me or say like you're out of the band. What they did, we had a website. They just took me off the bio list.
Amazing.
I was just like, what? Why am I not on the what? Explode. Yeah. And so that's more funny than anything.
Yeah.
But
That's
what
adorable.
it did is it fucked with my brain because I was just like, there are no such thing as friends.
Yeah.
Like, I can't have friends anymore.
Yeah.
And then the last year of high school, I had a huge, like, big friendship thing, which is my friend Chad. We were one of the first high schools to put on the play The Laramie Project.
Oh, yeah.
And Chad is a great actor. I should talk to him, but we don't talk.
Hi, Chad. Okay.
Yeah, that would be amazing if he listened. And he came out as gay during, because he was Jedediah.
Wow. Oh, okay.
Who was the character? Yeah.
Yeah.
So and it's like, so he was in like this whole like religious experience with Moises Kaufman and stuff like that. And he was like the first one. I remember we were at Santa Clara University, and he was like, because we were getting some food in the parking lot, he was just like building himself up, and he's like, I just need to tell you I'm gay. I was like, yeah. Yeah, we all kind of knew. But then I heard about like how his parents didn't deal with it as well.
Oh, no.
You know, or not as much as expected. So then it started tipping the scales the other way.
Right,
where I
you're
was
like,
just like,
oh, there's
okay, there are
people.
points to friends, but up
Right.
till that point I was so removed, and just like all I was doing is just having a good time and just like
Yeah.
enjoying things and not opening up to people for a
Yeah.
good like 4 or 5 years. And then I finally got to college, and then it started making sense that you had to kind of be a full person,
Right. There, yeah.
or
Yeah,
nothing would
or-
happen in your life. So that's when I knew I had to start like devoting time to friends and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, up
Look
to
at
that
you
point,
now,
I
surrounded
was
by lovely lovers.
I super loved being alone. I think one of the previous podcasts said that too. Is like,
Oh, yeah,
I'm totally
yeah.
fine with being alone.
Oh,
I'm
it was
like,
Erin. Yeah.
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 I'm the same exact way. I do not come out of my little hidey hole that often.
Yeah.
Except to go non-bowling.
Yeah.
Sometimes, apparently. No, yeah. So I don't know. Like it was. What's crazy about it is like there's so many unhealthy aspects of how I developed that I'm surprised that I'm as healthy as I am now.
Yeah. I would say similar with me. I feel like very opposite, but like
We kind of like met on
yeah,
different
it
sides of the
was
spectrum and got a little closer to the center.
like a parabola.
Your sine wave, cosine wave.
Yeah,
Is that what
yeah,
you're talking about? Yeah. All right.
All right.
Oh no, you were talking like asymptotal. Okay, I got it. I really like math.
If you could see me, I'm just making hand gestures,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Abe is interpreting them
Yes.
into math.
Yeah. You should, so everyone catch Maggie's woman show where she does
You guessed the math. that I'm
interpretive
talking
math
about.
dance.
Now we're going to fight to the death about which friend pair is the better friend pair.
That's a good thing for friends to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how do we this typically go? You start or I start?
I'll jump in.
All right.
I'll start.
Show me how it's done.
Yeah. Okay, so in this episode, I picked Spock and Kirk from Star Trek.
Now OG or like new?
Oh, OG.
OG. Okay.
I got some problems with the new series.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're the same characters, right?
So we're talking like Wrathicon
Yeah.
level.
Yes. I think they're great friends. Obviously, they've had a lot of adventures together, which we have talked about. Shared experience can very much bond you, which I think I think that's a big part of their friendship. It was like, look, we've almost died several hundred times, at least once a week during our episodes. In that way, I think they bond. I also wanted to talk about them though, because as good friends as they are, I do feel like they like cut each other down quite a bit with their humor. And I do sense that there's love there between them. But I don't know. Sometimes they can both be a-holes towards each other. So in that regard, it's a bit complicated. But again, they are like good work friends. And I do believe that they've put in about 200 quality hours.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
They are also coworkers though.
Yes, they are
Technically.
coworkers. So I think I think any barriers that they have of, having sleepovers together probably comes from that they also work together.
You totally write fan fiction. Don't you? Should I do mine then?
Yeah. Jump in.
So I think I have you beat. The only downside to this one is that it's technically a Joss Whedon property.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I just want to throw that out there. Not a big fan of the guy personally. But back when he was doing Buffy, there's two characters, Xander and Willow. Mm-hmm. And they absolutely beat all friends forever. Because not only do they go through all of the gamut of like hating each other, loving each other, being terrible together, being wonderful together, ruining other people's lives and feeling guilty together.
Right.
They go through all of it and they still stand strong. In fact, near the end of it, technically in the season when Willow becomes Dark Willow and becomes like the most strong, like she's the big bad.
Yeah.
He single-handedly talks her out of destroying the world by just talking about being friends. Yeah, and he's like, "This is not you. I know you."
Aww.
They dated in the first season.
I do. I've seen bits and pieces in the first season.
And she was like, "It's only because I thought I loved you, but actually I'm a lesbian, so sexually I'm not into you.
Yeah.
But because you're such a great guy, I am going, like, I thought that that's what was going to go on." And then the last thing I want to say about it is Xander in particular has that complex because everyone else gets superpowers. They're either demons or, the chosen one or a wizard,
Wizard.
or just really strong. They all have their different things. Xander gets no powers. And he gets over the insecurity of being the guy with no superpowers. Like in the Scooby Gang, he's the heart.
Yeah.
And specifically their friendship is like the heart.
Yeah.
And it's two good performances made by two strong actors.
Yeah, I love the girl, Allison
Hannigan?
Yeah. She's great.
And Nicholas something.
Nicholas something. Good job, Nicholas something.
Nicholas something. Wasn't in a lot of stuff after.
Yeah.
But I think he was. He was in that Coherence movie, which was a movie where it's like a comet comes by and everyone goes crazy.
Oh, and then the guy rolls up in roller skates, and then her and Jennifer Connelly fall in love.
Fall in love.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you that shot and you tell me that's not like, oh my Lord.
Oh my Lord.
I have the vapors. But yeah, so I say Kirk and Spock can shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up.
Xander and Willow's got it where it counts.
Wow, two sci-fi friendships.
Yeah.
Going head to head.
A little bit.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming over to my house.
Yeah.
Staring at some cupcakes.
I'm going to take one of those cupcakes.
Oh, great. So where can people find you, Abe?
Well, if you're listening on to the network Small Beans, Michael Swaim and I are running that joint, and so there's a bunch of podcasts.
Yeah.
That's really where I'm
Yeah.
hanging up my coat these days.
And videos.
Yeah,
and,
we're trying to do more videos. We're trying to make some documentaries, but we're still going to stay strong with the podcast stuff. But look out our Patreon and you'll get news about that.
And follow it. You can. I think people don't realize that you could also just follow the Patreon
if you don't
too.
have money to throw to us, that's fine.
Yeah, so go follow Small Beans.
because we don't really have a Twitter account because we realized that Swaim just has a bigger we didn't care.
Yeah.
As long as people know. So follow us there and you'll see what we're up to. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
this is an absolute joy.
Yeah, I wanted to have you on for a lot of reasons, but I think this has been a very fun discussion.
Yeah,
we've definitely covered things that we haven't in the past because you're a dude.
Because
you
I'm
gave
a
me
dude.
the dude experience.
Yeah, I'm dude.
Yeah,
dude.
bro.
Yeah, brah.
Thanks for listening to My Top 8. I'm your host, Maggie May Fish. If you like what you heard and you want to help me bring you more, head over to patreon.com/Maggie May Fish, where you can support the show. And check out patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can support my wonderful friends who help make this show possible. Find me on Twitter at Maggie May Fish, and let me know your thoughts on friendship. Until next time, goodbye, friends.